Okay, have you ever had one of those days where you feel like you're absolutely on fire, just getting everything done, and then the next day you can barely function? It feels totally random, right? Well, today we're going to talk about a really simple but honestly powerful tool for making sense of all that. It's called the pattern journal. So, what is a pattern journal? At its heart, it's just a place, a notebook, a file on your computer, whatever, to capture your personal patterns. And here's the key. The goal isn't to fix anything. It's not about analyzing or coming up with some big strategy. The whole point is just to make your own rhythms visible. And this quote right here, it just nails it. This is about noticing rhythm, not solving problems. It's this huge shift in perspective, right? From trying to fix yourself to simply seeing yourself. Okay, so if the goal is to notice our rhythms, what exactly are we looking for? Well, as you get into this, you'll probably find that most of your patterns fall into two main categories: triggers and sweet spots. First up, let's talk triggers. A trigger is basically any situation or condition that consistently drains you. Think of it as anything that just reliably puts a tax on your system, your energy, your focus, or even your emotional battery. And what's super helpful is to see that these triggers aren't just one thing. They can be sensory, right? Like too much noise or clutter or weird lighting. They can be emotional, like dealing with conflict or feeling under pressure. Physical things, too, like being tired or hungry. Or even cognitive stuff, like trying to multitask or having a hard time switching from one task to another. Now, this is so important. A trigger isn't some personal failing. It's not something you should avoid at all costs. It's just data. That's it. It's pure information about what your specific system needs and how it reacts to the world. And then, on the flip side, we have the sweet spots. These are the complete opposite of triggers. These are those conditions, those moments or environments where your system just works better. You feel clearer, you feel steadier, more focused, and just a lot less overwhelmed. And these can show up in all sorts of ways, right? Maybe there's a certain time of day when your brain is just on, or a specific type of environment like a totally quiet room, or maybe even a busy coffee shop. It could be a kind of task you're doing, a certain level of stimulation, or whether you're working by yourself or with other people. And this is what I love about this idea. Sweet spots are not some trendy new productivity hack. They're just the places, the conditions, where your nervous system is naturally wired to work better. It's about your own biology. So just to boil it all down real quick, triggers are what drain your system. Sweet spots are what support it, helping you feel clearer, steadier, and more focused. It's a simple distinction, but a really powerful one. All right, so we know what we're looking for. But how do you actually do this? Well, the key to the whole practice, the secret sauce, is its simplicity. Observation only. Now look, this is not a traditional Dear Diary where you write down every single thing that happens. Instead, you're a detective looking for one thing and one thing only: repetition. You're just trying to capture the patterns that pop up over and over again. So what does that actually look like on paper? What do you even write in this thing? Let's look at a few really clear examples. It can be as simple as this. You just notice, after a couple of days, I'm realizing that late afternoon meetings just feel draining. You write that down. That's it. Or maybe you notice a sweet spot. You realize, you know what? My thoughts are always clearer in the quiet of the morning. Boom, that's an entry. Here's another trigger. You might just observe that when there's a lot of noise around you, your thinking gets kind of fuzzy. So you just write, noise makes it harder to think. Simple as that. And here is the most important rule of this whole practice. No interpretation required. You don't need to ask why. You don't need to figure out what it all means. You just write down the observation. Period. Now, I know this might sound almost too simple, but there is a profound power in this practice of just noticing. Let's talk about what this actually builds over time. When you start jotting down your patterns without that layer of judgment, something really fascinating starts to happen. First, your day-to-day life starts to feel a lot less random and chaotic. That voice of self-blame, it starts to get quieter. And eventually, this sense of curiosity starts to replace that old frustration. You start to realize that what you always thought was chaos actually has a rhythm. Your system isn't random, it's cyclical. It responds in really consistent, predictable ways to certain things. You just hadn't been able to see that cycle clearly before. What you're really doing here is you're practicing metacognition, which is just a fancy word for thinking about your thinking, but you're doing it in its gentlest possible form.
It's the simple act of noticing without all that pressure to immediately fix something.
Okay, so where do you even start? Let's wrap this up with your very first step, a super simple, gentle invitation to try this out for yourself. Here is the only thing you need to do. Sometime over the next few days, just try to notice one single trigger or one single sweet spot. That's your only job. Write it down exactly as you noticed it, and then you're done. Because right now, that is the entire point. You're simply a scientist collecting data. You're not drawing any conclusions. And who knows what interesting patterns that data might reveal to you over time.